The first sound wasn't the crack of my bone. It was his laugh, deep, cruel, like it had been waiting years to escape. "Now they match your worthless life," my father said, the bat still warm from the swing. My mother was leaning against the doorway, arms crossed. She smiled like she was admiring a painting. "Crawling looks better on you," my father said. I didn't cry, not then. I smiled through the pain. Because in that moment, I knew they'd never laugh again. I used to think they loved me. Stupid, I know. But as a kid, I held on to scraps, a pat on the head when I got good grades, a nod when I stayed out of trouble. I trained for years to get into that recital. Every morning before school, every night after homework. They never came to practice, never asked about my routines. The morning of the performance, Dad was already drunk. Mom told me my costume made me look cheap. I tied my laces tighter and told myself they were wrong. I was halfway out the door when Dad called me back. The last thing I saw before the bat came down was his grin. I spent 6 weeks in the hospital. Fractures, torn ligaments, pins in my knees. The police asked questions, but my parents had answers ready. I'd tripped on the stairs. My silence sealed their story. People think silence is weakness. It's not. It's storage. I stored every word, every smirk, every moment they thought they'd won. By the time I turned 18, the pain had become part of me. I learned to walk again, slowly, with steel in my knees and fire in my chest. I left that house the day I graduated. But leaving didn't mean forgetting. It meant planning. I started small. Records, documents. My father had been dodging taxes for years, taking payments under the table for his side business. My mother had a habit of signing things she didn't read. I kept every copy I could find. Forged receipts, fake expense claims, hidden bank accounts. At 19, I took a job at the courthouse, filing, archiving, learning the system. I watched how investigations were built, how evidence became chains. At 22, I filed my first anonymous tip, just enough to put them on the radar. I waited. The break came 3 years later. My father got sloppy. His crew was moving stolen equipment through a warehouse listed in my mother's name. That made her liable. I sent everything, photos, bank transfers, false IDs, to the district attorney. I even included the date they'd be there. The raid made the evening news. My father was dragged out in cuffs, cursing at the cameras. My mother was pale, lips pressed tight, no makeup to hide the years of venom carved into her face. Charges, fraud, money laundering, possession of stolen property. Bail denied. I visited them once in jail, just once. Dad sat across from me, hands cuffed, eyes wild. "You think you're better than us?" I leaned forward, close enough for him to smell the freedom on me. "No, I just know I'm not you." Mom didn't speak. She just stared. The first time in my life she didn't have something cruel to say. The trial was public. I sat in the front row every day, in a dress the color of fresh bruises. The prosecutor used my evidence like a scalpel, cutting away their defenses until nothing remained. The verdict? Guilty. 20 years each. No parole for the first 15. When the judge read the sentence, I didn't smile. I just looked at them the way they'd once looked at me, like they weren't worth the effort of hate. Some nights I think about that recital, the one I never danced, the music cue I never stepped out to. I picture the spotlight, the hush of the audience, the swell of the first note. I imagine my legs moving, strong and sure. And I imagine them in their cells, hearing that same song on some old radio, wondering if I'm out there dancing after all. Revenge wasn't about giving them pain. Pain fades. It was about taking away what they valued: control, reputation, the ability to hurt me again. They thought breaking my legs would end me. All it did was give me a reason to stand taller than they ever could. Now, the only crawling in our family is them toward parole hearings that will never go their way. And I'll be there, every time, watching. Not with anger, not with pity, just with the quiet satisfaction of someone who knows they'll never laugh again.